New Orleans Saints quarterback Derek Carr leads another game-winning drive as the New Orleans Saints simulate another 2-minute drill, and things didn't go as well for young quarterback Spencer Rattler. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net and Saints analyst at WWL TV. We appreciate you very much for being here for this live episode, breaking down Saints Camp Day 19 out here at Ullman Stadium, uptown New Orleans at Tulane University. Appreciate everybody being here. On today's episode, we're going to do about a 15-minute recap of what went on today. The New Orleans Saints got some big names returning to the field as they return home to New Orleans. We'll take a look at the red zone, which has been a really successful amount of work over the course. Just seen a really successful amount of work over the course of training camp so far. We're going to kick everything off with Derek Carr coming up clutch again with 1 minute and 58 seconds left on the clock. What did he get done? We're going to break it all down here on today's episode of Locked On Saints. We appreciate you very much for being here, making us your first listen of the day every day, and for being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you to everybody who took the time to say hi out here at Ullman as well. Let me start to break things down here for you because I thought Derek Carr came up clutch in front of the home crowd in a way that he really benefits from. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look, there's a lot of people in New Orleans that are asking big questions about Derek Carr. Should it be Derek Carr? Should it be Spencer Rattler? Should it be Jake Haener? All these conversations around the quarterback. And I think that Derek Carr came out here with that little clutch gene that he's got. Remember, he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL amongst active quarterbacks when it comes to game-winning drives, fourth quarter comebacks, all that good stuff. And he put that on full display tonight in front of the home crowd and brought together a really nice touchdown drive. Let's go over it. He connected with several different receivers, a lot of checkdowns on the way, but then eventually let one loose down the right side of the field, drawing a defensive pass interference penalty that ended up kind of helping them advance up the field quite a bit, and then eventually connecting with Foster Moreau on a crosser at the goal line for a touchdown, which really kind of punctuated the emphasis and the success that the New Orleans Saints have found in the red zone during this game, or during this practice, during this game simulation, and then really all throughout training camp, the Saints have been very successful there. We're going to take a look at that here in just a moment. But look, a completion to Jordan Mims underneath, another completion to Chris Olave, going back to Jordan Mims, getting completion to Taysom Hill, back to Jordan Mims a couple times, who had a fantastic day out here at camp, by the way, including a big not necessarily a wheel route, but kind of this fade down the left sideline, him and Derek Carr talking before the snap, Derek Carr letting him know, like, line up here, here's your alignment, here's how to kind of angle this and everything. Just really good communication between the quarterback and the young running back. The running back then takes the route over to the outside, wins that sideline. Demario Davis in coverage, who was participating in team drills today. We'll go back over the importance of that here in just a moment. But then Jordan Mims just wins over the top. Derek Carr places a nice pass for him and comes up with a big catch down that left sideline right in front of my good friend John Hendricks and I, kind of watching this play unfold. Really good stuff there on the communication, and a really fantastic day for Jordan Mims, who just keeps finding ways to make noise, whether it's in special teams, whether it's in the run game. I thought he had a pretty nice preseason game as well, or whether it's in this practice or through practices. Really good stuff when it comes to Jordan Mims, and really nice day for Derek Carr, particularly in the red zone. He had some plays missed the pass downfield down the right sideline where Chris Olave had drawn a linebacker in coverage to Marco Jackson that he could have had maybe some pressure got in the way there, but ended up missing that one. Missed on a deep pass on the right sideline as well. It wasn't all perfect, but I'll tell you what, it was really good nonetheless. So it was great to see. Derek Carr wasn't the only one who got an opportunity to lead a game-winning drive with 1:58 left on the clock. Saints also gave Spencer Rattler that chance as well. So it kind of gives you a little bit of an indication that Spencer Rattler might be the one to take the end of game snaps up against the Tennessee Titans, but we'll see how it all goes. But for his, I thought that he didn't have the greatest showing. He ended up having a pass go to Kevin Austin that was a little high, but Kevin Austin was able to reel in at the sideline, threw one pass to a receiver. I believe it was Stanley Morgan Jr. down the right sideline, but led him a little bit further than where he was going to be. I don't know if it was a miscommunication or maybe if the ball placement just wasn't what it needed to be, but it kind of went right to the hands of Kaleb Ford-Dement, who was not able to come up with that interception. But later on, as they continued to drive, Spencer Rattler puts a actually very nicely located pass for Kevin Austin Jr. over the middle of the field, hits him right square in the hands, bounces up, and then lands in the hands of Kaleb Ford-Dement, who comes up with the interception later on. So I don't really blame that one on Spencer Rattler. I think that it's just, it was a bad drop. Really, that's one that doesn't look so great for Kevin Austin Jr., a guy that I've been hyping for the last week. So oops. But look, this is how camp works sometimes. All right, guys have ups, guys have downs. We'll see how things go. But yeah, not a strong day for Spencer Rattler, and then to have it punctuated on someone else's mistake doesn't make his day any better, any easier. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. So really just a nice day all around for this team that also thrived in the red zone, whether it was in 7-on-7s or if it was in team drills. Derek Carr connecting with Chris Olave on a play action crosser for a touchdown at one point, connecting off the play action bootleg later on with Equanimous St. Brown, who returned to team practices again today. 7-on-7s, he had several dots in those situations that ended up being touchdowns. I think that the Saints really have had a nice camp when it comes to their red zone situational work. And look, we'll have to see if that ends up translating to what they're doing in the regular season, no doubt about it. But it's a good thing to see at this point, right? They put a lot of focus on situational work and they've been able to do it really successfully. And it's been really, a lot of it has been success in the passing game there. But I asked Dennis Allen about it after the game, and he mentioned that their ability to run in the red zone ends up making a big difference for them as well. Creates a little bit more space, kind of makes the defense kind of play off a little bit. They can't really stack the box, all these other things. So it gives you a lot of space in terms of your ability to be able to pick things apart. And then, as we've seen, bootleg, play action rollouts, all in the red zone, resulting in touchdowns. That comes from your ability to run in the red zone. So you set that up with the run game. So great to see when it comes to this New Orleans Saints team, and a really exciting practice. I mean, you could feel the energy here in Ullman Stadium on Tulane's campus like crazy, with being in front of the home fans, everyone cheering, everyone having a good time, all of that. So it was really good to see. Another thing that was really good to see was the amount of players that returned for the New Orleans Saints during this practice. Let's break that down. And I'm going to tell you what Charlie Smith did that took everybody by surprise, the rookie kicker. Let's get to that as we continue on and wrap up this quick episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I don't know if it's just because I'm in Louisiana, but when I log in to FanDuel, it gives me an entire page of Saints stuff. Will Tyrann Mathieu have more than 5 interceptions? Will the Saints win more than 7.5 games? Will they make the playoffs? There's over-unders for Derek Carr passing yards, Rashid Shaheed receiving yards, Chris Olave receiving touchdowns, Alvin Kamara rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. All of that is all available on FanDuel. Right now is a great time to get in on FanDuel, because right now through September 22nd, all customers that put $5 down get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So with that and your YouTube base plan, you'll be able to watch all the games over the course of that Sunday afternoon that are out of your market. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel any time. It's awesome. I mean, what a cool deal that they're offering right now. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now to get started and download America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app so that you can buy tickets last second to your favorite events. My favorite way to do it is to toggle the all-in pricing option on. That way I have no surprise fees or anything like that by the time that I'm all said and done. There's a Childish Gambino concert over at the Smoothie King Center. I'm thinking about maybe grabbing some tickets to go and check it out. I did like the new album. So I don't know, maybe if I do, I'll pick them up over on Game Time, because I'm the type of person that likes to plan moments in advance rather than months in advance. And Game Time basically rewards me for being spontaneous. And I love being rewarded for being spontaneous. So take all the guesswork out out buying your tickets today with the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use that promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Wrapping up this quick review and recap and reaction episode to the New Orleans Saints training camp day 19 here in New Orleans. New Orleans Saints finally back in New Orleans. I'm so happy to be home. And so it was great to be able to see a lot of the fans here, and you could really feel the energy. And you could really feel the energy too because of all the excitement of a lot of the returning players that have finally made it back from injury for the New Orleans Saints, except for one notable name. So let's break that down here as we continue on. Don't forget, and we appreciate you as always, making us your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget to go and check out Locked On Fantasy Football as well. Vinny Iyer, Michelle Majuk, every Monday through Friday, making you the smartest fantasy football player in your fantasy football league. So here's a list of some of the key returns that took place here. And when I talk about returns, I'm talking about players that we haven't seen practice for at least a couple of days or at least a day. We've seen some players that ended up kind of ticking up their participation, like Demario Davis, for instance. He was somebody that had done some walkthroughs and things like that the last week in California. Today, he participated in on-field team drills, all that good stuff. So he really got more involved. But guys that return, Alvin Kamara was back today. He did not participate in team drills, but he was out there or on 7-on-7s, but he was out there getting warmed up, doing some routes on air, working with the team, all that other stuff. Really good to see. Somebody asked me if maybe his lack of participation in team drills has anything to do with his contract, but I think it's to the contrary. It's a good question, but I think it's to the contrary. If I'm Alvin Kamara and I'm in the midst of a contract negotiation, I'm going to let that influence my practice participation and I'm injured, I ain't practicing. I'm good. I'm injured. I ain't worried about nothing. But for him, he's actually working his way back. So I think that's more of a positive than it is a sign of a holdout. So really good to see that from Alvin Kamara and for the New Orleans Saints. One of the other big returns today, of course, was tight end Juwan Johnson. Again, didn't participate he participated in routes on air, didn't really get involved in some of the other stuff, but that's okay. He's working his way back. He told us after the game that he feels like, or after the practice, that he feels like he's at 100%. He's ready to go. He's going to be ready to go week 1. Everyone knew that was going to be the case. He mentioned that he kind of worked his way back a little bit faster than their target date to get him back, which is great news. Told us some great stories about time with his family and all this other stuff, but then also spending time out in California and being a guy that was out there without his family, but not being able to practice the entire time that they were out in California outside of the side work that he did. So you can really kind of respect the grind, respect the hustle a bit of what Juwan Johnson went through over in California. But it was great to see him back out on the field, looking bigger, looking like he's ready to go, all these other things. He said that he has a kind of a collection of clips, from game clips to practice clips, over 200 clips on sort of this playlist, if you will, or compilation, if you will, of that he calls I'm Him. And it's just all these great moments that he's had so far throughout his career over the course of the 5 years, just kind of a compilation of all that stuff. And I thought that was such a cool note because it's just kind of a thing that shows you, okay, he's wanting to continue all of that. You mentioned kind of flushing out the noise and all those other things, focusing on what it is that where he's been great. And I'm really excited to see him in this new system. He did mention that it's more about the mentality than the system itself. But I think that there's a little bit of both. I think the system has the ability to kind of elevate what it is that's on that I'm Him collection. But I just thought that was a really cool note from him. So we'll see how his participation ticks up here throughout the rest of the game or throughout the rest of the week. And if he eventually gets an opportunity to maybe even take some snaps against the Tennessee Titans, we'll figure out. He did clarify that it was a fracture in his foot that led to the surgery, by the way. I know that was a big mystery. Taliesin Fuanga also getting out there today, kind of doing some work with the offensive line, individual drills, things like that. Nothing too big, but great to see him back out there. Paulson Adebo, same thing. Didn't participate in team drills or anything, but was out there and did a little bit of a warm-up, was in cleats, was in, jersey, all that other stuff. So it was good to see him. Ugo Amadi out there. Michael Jacobson making his return. So really good stuff in terms of all the returns there. Two notable absences continue for the New Orleans Saints, however, and that is, of course, wide receiver Rashid Shaheed still hasn't made his way back yet, but remember, he's dealing with a new injury, so that might take a little bit more time. And then we still haven't seen anything of Kendre Miller for the last little bit. and didn't see anything of him today here in New Orleans. So still a big, this is like, look, you look at a guy with a hamstring injury right now versus a guy like Juwan Johnson who had offseason foot surgery. And when Juwan Johnson beats you coming out onto the field, it's not the greatest sign. So I don't know if maybe there was I don't want to speculate, but I don't know if maybe there was a kind of a setback or a compounding issue or something like that, but not great so far in terms of still not having Kendre Miller out here. And the Saints also did not have Chase Young, but don't worry. Sounds like it's actually for a good reason. Dennis Allen saying that it was for a personal reason, but that he wanted to let Chase Young be the one to break the news because it is positive information. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk to him soon. I'm really eager to figure out what that is. I have my ideas about what it might be, but I really am excited to hear from Chase about what that positive news is. He's been such a good presence here. And for a team right now that's not necessarily sure if Tano Passanio is going to be able to make it back to kind of contribute to that defensive line, he's a guy that kind of helps to serve multiple roles and things like that. Although maybe Passanio makes his way back at some point during the middle of the season or something like that. We'll see. But really good to see or to hear that Chase Young's absence was not injury related. Remember, he had that offseason neck procedure. So I was hoping that it didn't have anything to do with that. It didn't. It's all positive. That's good news for Chase Young. Let me tell you about Charlie Smith right quick before we wrap up. This dude, I almost cursed on the show. This dude went 7 of 8 at one point, kicking field goals in a standard sort of, all right, let's line up, kick this field goal. Okay, let's walk it back. So here's what the Saints did. They started them at extra point, then they moved them back to 40, and then they went up 5-yard increments after that, all the way to nailing not only a 60-yard field goal, but a 65-yard field goal that hit the net behind the goalpost, which is about another 10 yards. So this one easily would have been good from 70. It was outstanding. His performance was outstanding. He did miss one of his 8 field goal attempts in that particular drill, which was a 55-yarder, turned around, kicked a 55-yarder right after that, and then ended up making that one. He would later go 8 of 9 in that simulated end-of-game drill where he kicked a field goal, kicked an extra point after Derek Carr led the touchdown drive. So he finished the day 8 of 9. So really, really wonderful performance by Charlie Smith, who has only been playing football for a couple of years. It's absolutely outstanding. So what I would say is that the race between him and Blake Grupe is still, to me, kind of neck and neck. But when you drill a 65-yarder in front of the home crowd, that's obviously going to be big. But of course, Dennis Allen more focused on things that you're more likely going to see in a game in terms of field goals. But it is nice to have that distance. And the good news is that even if Charlie Smith doesn't win that kicking competition and they go back to Blake Grupe, obviously Blake Grupe is going to be a good choice for them as well. But Charlie Smith's still on contract. He's that, international player program. So he's a roster exemption. If he's drilling 65-yard field goals right now, imagine what he's doing consistently in a year from now as he continues to develop. Again, a guy that's only been playing American football for a couple of years. Really, really cool to see. All right. That's all of our big notes from a game here, or the practice here, our night here at Yulman Stadium. We'll have a fresh episode for you tomorrow morning, breaking down a little bit more of this. And I want to kind of dive into a little bit of the interesting things that we're starting to see now from this running back room, because it feels like the running backs are really starting to get very comfortable in the system, and it's translating to bigger moments in games and in practice. What does that mean for the New Orleans Saints? We'll break that down in tomorrow's episode. We appreciate you very much. As always, make it your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, come and check out John Hendricks and I. We're going to be going live over on Second and Saints, get a little bit more conversation, a little bit more notes, a few more notes in there as well. So make sure you come and check us out. And you can also find that after we go live later on, all that good stuff too. So I appreciate you, whether you caught the show live or you caught the show later. We appreciate you very much, making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me on the show. As always, if you see me, please say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how your mom and them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.